It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical Mains and Dutch. I'm your host, Mains, and my colleague in the danger zone in Rainford. It's Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
Feeling very, very dangerous at the moment.
We should be feeling dangerous. Apologies last week. This is last week's show. It's a figment of your imagination that we missed a week. It's got nothing to do with the fact that me and Neil were in Munich the weekend before. It's got nothing to do with multiple hours that me and Neil have lost due to alcohol abuse. It's got nothing to do with the fact that Neil fell off a chair while dancing and hurt his knee. It's got nothing to do with the fact that I was in the doghouse. These things are completely irrelevant. We just didn't do the show.
No, couldn't be bothered. Couldn't be bothered.
Munich, fantastic place, great beer, really hot. Be careful. It's easy to get drunk.
Excellent pretzels.
Yeah, but you need to eat more than pretzels. Bear that in mind for future reference.
I've discovered, however, I pretty much had my breakfast, pretzels, and beer, and I never once woke up with a hangover. Although the last day I did wake up with no voice, but that's the second holiday in a row that's happened. I was
going to say you didn't wake up though. I had to wake you up 20 minutes before we were getting kicked out the hotel. But a different story for another time.
Did I make it out? I make it out?
You did, with literally 30 seconds to spare. Bravo. German efficiency there from Dutton. This week is last week's show, which is the AFC South. Interesting division, very interesting division. And we're going to do our usual thing, talk about the change. Big question, fancy breakout, fancy broke. Win total, and whether they are champs or chumps. Usual fare, really. So let's get this party started, Dutton. No time of wasting. And we're going to start with the... We usually do. Let's start with the Houston Texans. The change. They ins Tyrann Mathieu, honey badger to his friends. Justin Reid was the safety from Stanford. And let's be brutally honest, Neil. All the players who were coming back from injured reserve.
This team was like... Where the Eagles had the IR brigade and still won the Super Bowl, the Texans had the IR brigade and pretty much everything just fell to poo-poo.
Out, Brian Cushing retired, and Tom Savage, if he is real or not, still to be determined, but he is now not on the roster as an unreal person. Big question, Neil. With Deshaun Watson and JJ Watt back, is a playoff push on the horizon for the Houston Texans?
Well, this is a tough division because, as we say, I mean, this division had two playoff teams last year. Historically, the Texans have been very strong under Bill O'Brien. The Colts, with Andrew Luck under centre, if he played, who knows? It's tough to say. I mean, the AFC South, as we know, is a bit of a, if you're not the Patriots, no one really cares. So you'd have to say that, the Texans, if you put it all together, they have probably outside of Antonio Brown, the best wide receiver in the NFL. They have a quarterback who tantalised us with what he showed in such a small sample size, and now the expectation is he can come in and he can be so much, he can take that form over a full 16-game season. The Texans
breaking news, like he had like a touchdown percentage of something like 10%, and like the best ever is like 7%. So yeah. Deshaun Watson was amazing. He's not just for everyone. He can be amazing this year coming up, and he will not be anywhere near as good as those 3 or 4 weeks. So you just need to, fantasy fans. I know Dutton's the expert here, but I'm just going to rein it in. You're not getting 30 points a game off Deshaun Watson. Sorry, Neil.
So are you saying that Will Fuller will not catch 28 touchdown passes this season?
I think that's one of the things I'm trying to put forward, yeah.
One area, though, the Texans do need to improve. Obviously, they're getting Deshaun Watson back. He's a bit more mobile than Tom Savage or TJ Yates or Matt Schaub or David Carr.
Or me, or you.
Yeah, any other cripple he put back there. They didn't protect the quarterback at all last year. They allowed the third highest sack percentage, and they were number one in pressures allowed. So they need to do a good job protecting Deshaun Watson and letting him use the weapons. But with JJ Watt coming back, Jadeveon Clowney's still there, Tyrann Mathieu, if he is Tyrann Mathieu, this team has potentially, it's got playmakers at most levels of the defense, and it's a topsy-turvy division, so I would expect them to be challenging for it.
I think you look at the team and you say, okay, Deshaun Watson, if he's anywhere near like he was in those first few weeks that he played, Will Fuller, DeAndre Hopkins, JJ Watt, DeJavian Clowney, Tyrann Mathieu. These are big name, big star players. If they play to their potential and the players around them are good enough, then this team has a chance to win 9 or 10 games. I think you hit the nail on the head. As with most teams, Neil, it's in the trenches, right? I don't think anybody's concerned about the defensive line. That's going to do what it does. The question is, can the offensive line keep Deshaun Watson upright, fit, and able to throw 28 touchdowns to Will Fuller? Neil, on the Texans, who was their fancy breakout?
The fancy breakout, and this is a slightly bit odd because everyone has said about how much of a value Lamar Miller will be at his current ADP given how productive he was with Deshaun Watson. The problem was Lamar Miller breaks down as the season goes on. It's one of the few things the Miami Dolphins have actually got right over the last 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years, however long you want to go back to when Shula got appointed, in the sense that they knew we can't give him the ball till he pukes because he'll puke very quickly. So, I'm not saying you draft him because no one's drafting him at the moment. Alfred Blue will not die. He will not go away. I think he's got pictures on Bill O'Brien. He is sticking to the roster. And in the last 5 games of last season, Lamar Miller had 59 carries for 233 yards, no touchdowns, 3.9 yards a carry. Alfred Blue had 50, 204 yards, 1 touchdown at 4.1 yards a carry. If the running back is going to feed off the success of Deshaun Watson, however limited, however sky blowing it is, there's just a chance that Alfred Blue could still hang around towards the back end of the season. And if Lamar Miller gets injured and Donta Foreman doesn't come back, which, to be honest, given the type of injury and the track record of people who suffer that injury, I don't think he will. Alfred Blue is someone to keep an eye on as the season progresses, but you don't have to draft him.
And Neil, who's the fantasy broke on the Houston Texans?
The fantasy bust at his current ADP is Will Fuller. He's going in the 6th round. Now, last season, in 4 games with Deshaun Watson, he averaged, now these are reasonable figures, okay? He averaged 5.5 targets, 3.2 receptions for 69.7 yards. So over the course of the season, that's 88 targets, 52 receptions, 1,100 yards. That's pretty good. It was the 1.75 touchdowns per game, however, that have skewed things somewhat. So I think if you're going to get, if we take his touchdown rate down to a reasonable level and say he gets 4 or 5, 5 or 6, I don't think the 6th round is acceptable for what you. I don't think his price will justify what you'll get if his touchdown rate returns to something like normal. I could be wrong, and I probably will be, but I don't think he's going to get enough of an uptick in targets with, as I'm assuming DeAndre Hopkins is still alive. I don't think he's going to get the volume to warrant where he's currently going.
I think that's one thing we need to discuss from a fantasy point of view. It's tough to chase touchdowns. You should look at receptions and yards, but touchdowns in most senses is not a year by year similar figure. Some years they can spike and some years they aren't. We look at the Julio Jones, like almost 0 touchdowns, to the Will Fuller. Every time Deshaun Watson threw it to him, it was in the end zone. It's a strange one. It doesn't always work, and we shouldn't really go chasing it.
No, don't chase touchdown. Don't chase last year's ridiculous efficiency. It's not going to happen again.
Absolutely. Win total for the Houston Texans. Vegas high on the Texans, 8.5. Love Deshaun Watson, obviously. Home games against the Giants, the Cowboys, the Bills, the Dolphins, and the Browns. Let's be brutally honest. That is a fantastic home schedule.
That's 5-0 outside of the division at home.
It's fantastic home. Flip that round. Road games against the Pats, which I believe is week 1.
Mm-hmm.
Broncos, Washington, Jets and Eagles. Now the Jets and Eagles, obviously the Eagles, as we are already, at that point, 13, 14 and 0. I'm not 100% sure on the week. But they are back-to-back 15th and 23rd of December for Houston. They are cold, outdoor, windy places where Houston is not any of those things. So that's something to bear in mind. Win total is 8.5. Are they champs or chumps?
I'm going to say champs because, as I say, that out-of-division home schedule just screams you've got to have them all, and there's no excuse for them not to have them all. So yeah, I'm going to take the over.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? If you look at it, and I look and think, okay, let's say they go 3-3 in the division, 4-1 in home schedule. Let's say they somehow lose one of those games. There's 7. They need 2 more. Is that feasible? It probably is. They are, and I think I'm going to say that a lot in this division. They're all 7-9, 8-8, 9-7 teams who I expect to go 3-3 in the division. So, I would not be betting on this division because I just think that the over-unders are quite... Well, I won't be betting on the Texans. I may bet on one of the other ones. 8.5 is a very good number, Bravo Vegas. Probably just over, probably 9-7. Probably really one of the challenges to the Jags for the division. Moving on, Neil. The Indianapolis Colts. Matt Lawson. Eric Ebron, everyone's favourite dropping tight end. Ryan Grant, wasn't he on the Baltimore Ravens, or did I miss something? And then Quentin Nelson, official masher guard from Notre Dame, and captain Andrew Luck. You may have heard of him. If you don't follow him on Twitter, you should. He's the greatest follow on Twitter for the NFL.
My worry before we go any further is Andrew Luck has ditched the neck beard for some kind of Henry Cavill-like moustache.
No, some kind of 1970s porn moustache.
It's either 1970s porn or the grizzled cop who's 2 days from retirement who begrudgingly gets forced to work with the rookie hothead.
Okay, you've seen that film before, all 47 different times of it. Out, Vontae Davis, Dante Moncrief, and the U's Frank Gore. The big question is, Neil, how many games does Andrew Luck play?
I think Andrew Luck plays all 16 because I think we can criticise the Colts, and we do.
And we have.
But this time they've literally just said, no. When you are ready. We will tell you when you're ready. Then you tell us if you think you're ready, and we'll take it from there. I think the Colts have done a good job actually in drafts. They have improved their offensive line. So they know that if they're going to do anything, if they're going to make the most of this generational talent that they somehow fell into 5-6 years ago now, they need to protect him. Because it was their line that got him hurt. So, hopefully they're feeling a little bit of guilt about that. It's just a question of, if he can come back and be the Andrew Luck we know and love, he lifts everyone on this offense. And if the offense is fine, then almost by accident, the defense somehow seems to get a little bit better. If he's still a little bit rusty, then, who knows. But this team has question marks at most spots. They have some nice pieces, but I don't think they're going to go straight into, looks back, we're challenging for the division again.
Which is what, to be fair though, and let's be brutally honest, when Andrew Luck has played and been fit, that's what this team is. And he's never been surrounded with, Peyton Manning level talent.
No.
They have been, Ryan Grigson won GM of the year or whatever it was by drafting Andrew Luck. Bravo. That must have been really difficult.
Yeah.
You had the first pick and you picked the best player. Well done. Congratulations. Here's a trophy. Carry on. Get an extension and don't get fired for another 4 years. If Andrew Luck plays, this team usually wins. That's how it's been in the past. They have attempted, whether it's successful or not, to improve the offensive line since Andrew Luck's been out. They need to do that because Andrew Luck's a big man and has taken a lot of hits. He doesn't need to take any more. He doesn't need to take them unnecessarily. They have some talent. They are able to do certain things. If Luck's on the field, that means the defense isn't on it as much. I think there's a chance this team goes from, worst to first kind of idea. There's a possibility, there's a way that it happens. I'm not 100% sure it does happen, but it wouldn't be surprised if I'm looking and it's week 8 and this team's 6-2.
I think they'll be a lot better on offense, almost just, as I said, just by Luck being back. But I don't know how much he can do to help the defense. Their forced sack percentage was 31st. They allowed the third most defensive plays per drive. They allowed the fifth most defensive points per drive, the third most defensive yards per drive. They allowed 8.13 yards per attempt and 4.03 yards per carry on the ground. Defense is terrible. They've not done a great job of reinforcing it because they decided, no, we protect Andrew Luck and we try and beat teams 35-28. Offensively, they weren't great, but I'm not being funny, with the best will in the world to him. I'm sure he's a nice lad, a wonderful citizen, kind to old ladies and considerate to kiddies, but Jacoby Brissett is not Andrew Luck.
I think we need to be honest, O'Neill. You can't fix everything in the same season. And if you've got Andrew Luck, your job should be to keep him upright. And if you have to play games where you have to win 35-28, then you have to play games where you win 35-28. They've decided to play to their strength. Will it work? We're about to find out. But let's be honest. For 2 years, basically, no one's wanted to watch the Indianapolis Colts. If they're going to play 35-28 games every week, sign me up.
Yeah.
Who's the fancy breakout star, Neil?
It's not a breakout. It's just someone who I think you need to get him now before his ADP skyrockets, and that's T.Y. Hilton. Because at the moment, he's going the middle to the back end of the third round, like wide receiver 14. Well, if Andrew Luck's on the field with T.Y. Hilton makes sweet, sweet music and has shown he can be a top 5 fantasy wide receiver if Luck's on the field. So it's not a breakout. It's just a get him now and feel like, if your drafts are now, of course, get him now so you feel like you did something very special rather than be forced to take him in the second round when you're still thinking, I'd quite like some more running backs.
I'm not going to lie to you, Neil. I'm disappointed that we're not speaking right now about 1920s Chicago gangster Jack Doyle. I assume that was a nailed-on position. He is getting buzz, Neil, I assume, because of Luck and because of the fact that there's not that many tight ends about.
Tight end is a dumpster fire, as we know, which I take personally, given the amount of time I have to, the amount of time I spend writing about them. But I would stay clear of Jack Doyle. He's currently going off the board as the 12th tight end in the 11th round. Now, he's been a good old soldier, for the last couple of years, with and without Luck. He was quite productive. Well, he wasn't quite productive. He was productive last year, but his yards per reception was anemic. And it was just the fact that tight end was so bad that his numbers looked better by comparison. I think we're going to see an awful lot better showing from tight ends. And plus the fact that he's going to have to compete with Eric Ebron. It's a question of, Frank Reich obviously is coming from the Eagles, where they did go 2 tight ends more than most teams. So it's a question of, is Ebron or Doyle the Zach Ertz to the Trey Burton / Brent Selleck? I would suggest Ebron is more Ertz, and I think the pair of them are probably going to cap each other. They could probably be productive to an extent, because the Colts have shown a history of having 2 fantasy-relevant tight ends. They've done it twice in the last 6 years. 2 top 24 tight ends. But I just don't think Doyle is exciting enough, considering how much better the tight end pool is going to get, for me to take him at his current ADP.
I hear what you're saying, though, but, he was great in Boardwalk Empire. Neil, who's fantasy? Who's fantasy broke?
Jack Doyle. I just told him.
You just done that. I know. I just wanted to make sure after I've decided he should be a breakout. You're saying he's broke. That's why you're the expert, and I'm, the guy producing. Win total for the Indianapolis Colts is 6.5. They got home games against the Bengals, the Bills, the Dolphins, the Cowboys, and the Giants. Cowboys and Giants are back to back. Again, what some would call a soft home schedule. They got road games against Washington and the Eagles. That's back to back. They've got Pats and the Jets again back to back, and the Raiders. Champs or chumps, 6.5.
If we say champs because they'll show more signs of life than they did last year, then they're champs. If we say it in the galactic sense of the word, they're chumps. You can't. A quarterback who hasn't played in 2 years, who is obviously going to put up numbers, he cannot go 35-28 every week. He's not going to be able to keep it up. He'll have some great weeks, but I think an awful lot of them, in fantasy-wise, will come in garbage time because their defense is still just that. Garbage.
I think they go 8-8. I look, beat the Bills, beat the Dolphins, beat the Giants. 3-3 on the 3-3 on in the division. There's 6 wins. And I haven't even thought about it. So are they going to get 2 more wins? I would think so. So we'll see. I think they're 8-8. That makes them champs for me, and probably the only team I would bet on the over in the AFC South.
Interesting.
Next team, Dutton. Everyone's favourite team from London, the Jacksonville Jaguars. The change, and lots of it. Inns, Marquise Lee, Andrew Norwell, Dante Moncrief, ASJ, Taven Bryan is the draft pick. He was the defensive tackle from Florida. Out, basically the Jacksonville Jaguars that we all remember. Allen Robinson, Alan Hurns, Mercedes Lewis and Paul Posluszny. The big question, Neil, and we asked this in a lot of divisions for one team or other, is it Super Bowl or bust for the Jacksonville Jaguars?
You've got to say that. I mean, they came within, a game of the Super Bowl last year. No one expected it, but the AFC is that weak that they showed that literally the way to win in the AFC is you stop the good offenses and you do just enough on offense yourself. So, I mean, their defense was historically good. I think you've got to put it up there with some of the good to great defenses of recent years. The problem is they tried to go completely to the 2000 Baltimore Ravens and take the quarterback out the equation without realising, no, he has to make some plays. So, defensively, as long as they're still the same, if their star defensive players could, I don't know, stop pissing around, that'd be lovely. But I think that it's the best defense in football. Blake Bortles just needs to... Basically, they need to hide him, but hope he can make plays when he wants. And they're going to lean on the ground game. I think, it's a good recipe for the modern AFC.
I think first of all, I don't know if you know, but there's a high correlation between really talented defenses and pissing about and being dead mouthy. It's just one of them things. Look back through history, for whatever reason it happens. So Jalen Ramsey's getting dropped for preseason games. Don't worry about it. They ain't dropping in week 1.
Yeah.
As you said, it's the best defense in football. They've kind of swapped out wide receivers. They've tried to get better on the offensive line with Andrew Norwell. As you said, the job is keep the ball as much as possible. Don't give it away. Take it off the other team. It sounds ridiculous. That's what it is on most teams. But they've got a recipe to be able to do that.
They did they did run the most plays per game of any team in the NFL last season.
And that's why they won the division, right? And if they do that again, they'll win the division again. If they have that many things, they have a chance to be dominant. It's all dependent on how the offense, and most notably Blake Bortles, does. They will, regardless of the rest of the team, if they want to go far in the playoffs, it'll be down to Blake Bortles. Because let's be honest, they won the Pittsburgh game because of throws made by Blake Bortles. Not necessarily, was absolutely not because of the defense. Do you know what I mean? They nearly won in New England because of throws made by Blake Bortles. Do you know, at the end of the day, it becomes into that position that they're a very good defense. They're not the 85 Bears. They're not the 2000 Ravens. They're not the Bucks of 2002. They're not those defenses yet. 2002 Bucks, Gruden was you need to score 10 touchdowns. That's what this team needs to do. I don't know if they're going to do it. And so he needs Bortles to be efficient and be able to make plays. He can do both of those things. We've literally watched him do it. Is he a top 10, top 15 quarterback? No, he's not. That doesn't mean he can't make plays. He just needs to be sensible with the plays he makes.
Jack was down. Oh, sorry, Jack wasn't down.
Jack was not down, exactly. And that's what we're saying. And it sounds ridiculous, but those coin flip decisions win and lose games. It's one of them things.
And then your coach scared.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't have the both. You can't have the bad luck and poo your pants, you've got to say, okay, we're not going to get the look. We're going to have to make it ourselves.
Exactly, we're going to have to go balls out at that position at that point. Neil, who's the fancy breakout on the Jacksonville Jags?
3 years in a row, a top 13 quarterback in fantasy football, currently going undrafted. Blake Bortles. He's going to have weeks where he's going to be a viable streamer because of how good this defense is. Their schedule's going to be a bit rougher, obviously we're going to come to that, but they're going to be playing a first place schedule now, so they're going to go against some teams who are quite good against the run, so Bolton's going to have to make some plays. As you say, they've got a young, relatively untested receiving core, but this is a wide receiver core that doesn't have the previous 6 or 7 years of Jaguars stink on them. They're young, they're cocky, they're talented. That's going to help Bortles, who, by the way, was not healthy for the whole last season by all accounts. So I'm not saying we're going to see the 32 touchdowns, 4,000 yards, where we saw in 2015, but we have seen that he can put up numbers, and in fantasy football, that's all that matters.
Are we talking streaming him or are we talking starting him, Neil?
You don't start Blake Bortles, I would have thought. Depends how deep your league is. Just because the game script, we know what they're going to do. They're going to run the ball an awful lot, and I don't know how much volume you're going to get from him. But let's say there's going to be weeks.
Who's fancy broke?
It's another ADP that I'm not a fan of, and it's Leonard Fournette, who's going running back 8. Fournette wasn't particularly efficient last year, and he wasn't a big part of the passing game, so he lost out there. He's probably going to continue to lose out there to TJ Yeldon. He had 4.4 yards per touch, which was the 41st among all running backs. He says he's healthier, best shape of his life. Second year, he's more prepared for it. And from a volume point of view, he's probably going to get as much as he can take. But his touchdown rate was a bit meh, and he's not a big part of the passing game. So if it's volume driven, then yeah, he's probably going to be a top 12 running back. I just think where he's going, that 8, that's end of the first round spot. I think he's one of the first running backs where you generally consider the wide receivers.
Win total for the Jacksonville Jags is 8.5, same as the Houston Texans, interestingly. Home schedule, as you said, Neil, and we're about to find out, a first place home schedule. Pats, Jets, Eagles, Steelers, Washington. Road games against the Giants, the Chiefs, the Cowboys. Chiefs and Cowboys back to back. They play the Bills November 25th, probably cold. Then do get the Dolphins in a Florida derby. 8.5, Neil, champs or chumps?
I would say the over on the wins, and I think this is a team who's going to contend again. Now you could be accused, buying into the Jags again. Yes, because they've shown us they can do it. So why not? Why not buy in?
Yeah, I think it's between them and Houston for the division. I don't see a 13-3 team in this division. I really don't. So we're probably talking 9-7, 10-6. They're going to be I think it's an over 9, so it's 9-7, 10-6. I think they probably go 10-6. Texans go 9-7, but that's just me. So yeah, probably champs just, and then winning the playoffs. Anything can happen at that point because they know how to win because they've done it before.
Yeah, and they didn't go to some little pissant tin pot team and win in the playoffs. They went to Pittsburgh, the best wide receiver in football. And
then to be fair, through a couple of serious haymakers first half against the New England Patriots.
But then pooed themselves.
Unfortunate. Final team in the AFC South, Neil. It's the Tennessee Titans. Changes, ins, Dion Lewis, Malcolm Butler. Don't know about him. I think he doesn't play, so I'm interested in to see if he gets snaps in games. Because my understanding is Malcolm Butler doesn't get snaps in plays.
Not in the big games.
Blaine Gabbert. I just like saying it because it's cool, right? And then Rashaan Evans, linebacker, Alabama. Out, Avery Williamson, Sylvester Williams, DeMarco Williams. The big question...
Williams? Who he?
I don't know. I've read this. I don't even know if that's true. The big question... Murray? It is Murray. Why did I write Williams? It is DeMarco Murray. I am an idiot. Yeah, it is DeMarco Murray.
You don't care about this show. You're just making shit up.
And just making stuff up. And the irony of us not naming DeMarco Murray after slagging him off, or hero words you mean for the last 5 years, mostly slagging him off, is quite funny.
You not naming him. I knew who he was.
Okay.
You got his name wrong.
I got his name wrong. Yeah, well, you can come and find me.
You can come find you, can he, Mr. Paul Milson, or whatever your name is. Yeah?
Exactly right. The big question: can the new coaches get the best out of Marcus Mariota?
The best? Don't know. Better than last year? God, yes. I mean, Mariota was not healthy last year, we know, so that's all his numbers suffered. But for God's sake, be a bit more inventive with what you're doing. I mean, they passed the ball the 25th most times in terms of pass percentage because they were boring. It was, we'll just run DeMarco Murray into the ground, even though he's already 6 feet under the ground. What about Derrick Henry? No, Murray. So then they had Eric Decker, who looked past it. Rashard Matthews, wasn't himself because Mariota wasn't himself. Matt LaFleur, the offensive coordinator, has come from his last 2 gigs, have been working with Matt Ryan in his MVP season, and then with the Rams last year, with their epic turnaround. So one thing we know they're going to do a lot differently straight away from these 2 teams compared to what the Titans did last year. They're going to play a lot more 3 wide receiver. So that means it's they're going to go a bit more up tempo. They're going to use the running backs in the passing game and not dump off passing game. They're going to use them as pass catchers. So that's good news for Dion Lewis, not so for Derrick Henry. But again, this team, you look on defense. Yeah, we can stop the run. Yeah, that's because we don't have to run on you because you're that bad defensively. So they need to show that they have improved there. Is Malcolm Butler enough of an upgrade to what was there, coupled with Adoree Jackson? I don't know.
It's one of them things, Neil, where you think, as you said, new coaches, and you're like, oh, well, they got a defensive coach in Babel, so, does he help on the defense? And then they kind of just say to LaFleur, sort it. If you know what I mean. I don't think Babel's getting involved in many of those meetings rather than, keep the ball as long as possible. You'd assume he'd want them to run a lot. Do you know what I mean? That'd be an assumption. Whether it's the case or not, I don't know. What I will say is, Matt LaFleur, as you said, was with Matt Ryan, was in LA. Has he called plays? Has he called that many? That's the question. We don't know. But he's been in schemes and with people, i.e. Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay, who, let's be brutally honest, are at the moment probably the best 2 minds on offense in the league.
You said yourself that.
I just did. I can literally now see a group of people who are like, screw you, mains. What about him? Yeah. I'm just telling you, I'm taking Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay. That's just what I'm saying. Until Philly possibly...
Special. Yeah, you take them. That's fine.
But anyway, I said one of
Big
the 2.
Dog. Go. Sorry, what one?
So anyway, we literally sucked the Eagles off last week. So give it a rest.
Super Bowl champions.
Yeah, exactly. It's complete loss.
Why give them love, eh?
So anyway, back in the room, is Matt LaFleur able to take those schemes that he found with Kyle Shanahan, with Sean McVay, get them embedded with Marcus Mariota, get Marcus Mariota out on the run and throwing? That's what he's good at, right? That's what he needs to be good at. Moving the pocket, making plays, making throws. As you said, a lot less 11 personnel. Do you know what I mean? Let's mix it up a bit. Let's get 3 wide receivers out there. Let's make the defenses think about what we're going to do. And being able to do that, we have talented running backs in Dion Lewis and Derrick Henry, who will then be able to have more space to be able to do what they need to do, which is move the chains.
I suppose the only real concern would be if you look, at the 2 quarterbacks that LaFleur's worked with, Matt Ryan and Jared Goff, they're not the most mobile. So I don't know how much experience he's got with a quarterback of Mariota's skill set. But if he has inherited anything from McVay and Shanahan, Shanahan obviously has had experience with mobile quarterbacks in the past. You may remember it. It was nice for 5 minutes. So maybe he can incorporate, and also do the ridiculous thing of ask the quarterback what he wants to do.
I think although Matt Ryan and Jared Goff aren't mobile, they move. So a lot of plays where play action roll out to one way or the other. You know, in Washington that also happened. You know, it's not something that we're unaware of. Things happened to be able to get the quarterback in different positions. They're not they weren't statues under Shanahan and McVay is what I'm trying to say. They moved okay. They're not then running for 70 yards. And we still don't really want Marcus Mariota to do that. We just want him to be in better positions to make plays.
Yeah. We don't want him literally taking hit after hit. We just want him moving around to keep the defense honest.
Correct. Like Aaron Rodgers level movement, right? I don't need him to go and scamper for 25 yards. I just need him to be able to give himself enough time for his wide receivers to get open.
Yeah, RPOs, and you are the very, very last option.
Exactly right. Absolutely. Who's the fancy breakout star on the Tennessee Titans?
Well, I mentioned, say, the influence of the Rams. I'd say the Rams were one of the leading teams last year in terms of how often they went three wide. The leading receiver on the Rams in terms of targets was Cooper Kupp in the slot. So I think, considering he's currently going undrafted, and also that he's running with the ones as Corey Davis is perpetually nicked up and Rashard Matthews hasn't practiced once, Taywan Taylor is interesting value. He was nailed on pretty much to be the slot receiver, but now he's getting some play outside as well. So he's not the biggest slot receiver, so he's not, Jordan Matthews, he's not 6'3", not that type, but he is big enough that he can probably do a job in pass protection against, blitzing safeties or nickelbacks, and he can get open, and he is quick. So I think, from where they're going to say he's undrafted, so he's pretty much free. So I think he could be one of these players who the Titans passing game at the moment looks a bit like, I want a piece of it, but I don't know which one. Get the cheapest one. He's the cheapest one at the moment.
Who's fancy broke, Neil?
Derrick Henry, running back 17 in terms of ADP, going at the end of the third round. As I say, I think a lot of people, once DeMarco Murray was released, were singing hallelujah. It's now time for Derrick Henry. Then they went and signed Dion Lewis. Dion Lewis is not a change of pace back. He can handle a big workload. He did last year for the Patriots. He's good in the passing game. Henry's not bad, but he's a bit big. He's not exactly svelte. And I just think that Lewis is going to take most of the passing down work. And I think if the Titans get situations where they can bleed games, then they'll do what they did with Henry last year and they'll let him soak it all up. But it's a question of how much meaningful play he's going to get, because he's not Todd Gurley. I think, and neither is Dion Lewis, but I think in terms of skill set, Lewis is probably closer to Gurley than Derrick Henry is. I think Henry will have a decent season, but at the price you're currently taking him, you're banking on him being one of the best fantasy running backs, and I don't think he's going to be.
Okay, win total for the Tennessee Titans, Neil, is 7.5. They have home games against the Eagles, the Ravens, the Pats, the Jets, and Washington. They have road games against the Dolphins, the Bills, the Chargers, the Cowboys, and the Giants. Champs or chumps?
See, this is a playoff team. This is similar to the Bills. I think it's forgotten that this is a team that went to the playoffs last year despite their frailties.
This is a team that won a road playoff game last year.
Yeah. Because of a quarterback catching his own pass, which, by the way, whenever you watch it, I remain more and more convinced that he was beyond the line of scrimmage when he threw it.
In that game, though, if I remember correctly, that's not even in the top 10 worst officiating decisions in that game, if I remember correctly.
I think they'll be much better on offense because I think they couldn't really be worse. They'll be a lot more creative. I still have question marks about the defense. I think you can tell why Vegas have got them big hotels. I think it's a great line. So I'm going to take the under, just because I think Houston and Jacksonville are going to be that strong in this division. And I think the Titans and the Colts are basically just going to be trying to take points off each other.
Yeah, I'm with you. 7-9, 6-10, 8-8 at a push. It's a good number, as you said. It's why they got big hotels, right? I think they're probably the worst team in the division, but it's tight. And, I think that the in-division results defines who goes to the playoffs in this division. So at the moment, you're kind of saying, expect the Titans maybe go 2-4. But if they went 4-2, then maybe they win a division. I think it's that tight. I think this is one of the tighter divisions, and usually it's been tight because the teams haven't been very good in the past. I think all the teams are much better, but I still think it's tight.
I definitely think as well you've got three teams with quarterbacks that you'd be happy to have in fantasy football, and one that, as I say, there'll be weeks where you'll be happy to get them. And I don't know there's that many. I mean, well, actually, I tell a lie. I think most divisions, if you actually look at them, most of the quarterbacks are going to be fantasy viable this season, which is why you don't take them early, people.
Just remember that, guys. Don't take your quarterbacks early. So that's the AFC South, Dutton. Good stuff. 40 minutes of excellent content. Because we didn't do one last week, we're doubling up. So we'll be back later in the week discussing the NFC South. Again, another division full of some really good teams and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Isn't it your turn to be on them this year?
If it's my turn, we've got an issue. Don't want to spoil it for you. You'll find out later in the week. Anything to plug, Neil, before we go?
I should have an article about rising ADP, players with rising ADP for the last few weeks out on RotoViz. I had one for Numberfire last week about bounce back candidates, which I enjoyed putting together. It was a slideshow, so I know some people don't really like slideshows, but suck it, they're fun to do. So that's pretty much all I say. I'm waiting at the moment. We're coming up to when actual drafts happen, so it's getting to a point where now anything you say can be a bit lost in the shuffle. But as I say, as the season approaches, I will hopefully be returning with my streamers at tight end article for RotoViz.
Fantastic, Neil. Well, that's it for this show. We'll be back later in the week, and as always, these top guys are out.